Welcome back to our channel. Think it's just a nickel? Think again. This one's worth a fortune. Like and subscribe for more amazing coin finds. The year 1985 wasn't particularly memorable in the realm of American coinage, at least, not on the surface. The Jefferson nickel, featuring the long-standing profile of the third U.S. president, continued its journey without fanfare. Millions were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, produced with the familiar copper-nickel alloy that had defined the 5-cent coin for decades. It was a year of consistency, stability, and routine. Yet within that very routine, something slipped past unnoticed, something that would, years later, become the center of a numismatic storm. The Jefferson design had already been in place since 1938, its portrait crafted by Felix Schlag. By 1985, the design was aging, and although a few minor adjustments had been made over time, no major changes were expected. The mint's operations were finely tuned, and quality control had significantly improved from earlier decades. That's what made the emergence of an obscure error in a limited number of 1,985 nickels so baffling and so thrilling. The first clue came from a retired Navy mechanic named Howard, living in a small Oregon coastal town. He wasn't a professional collector, but over the years, he'd grown fond of saving unique-looking coins. It was more of a hobby than a passion. One afternoon, while sorting through old jars of change, he noticed a 1985 nickel that seemed a bit off. The front of the coin showed Jefferson's profile like always, but the letters around the edge looked unusually thick. He squinted closer. The word, Liberty, appeared almost shadowed, as if there was a second, slightly misaligned layer behind a dot on the reverse. Monticello looked different. The dome was oddly doubled, and the vertical lines on the portico seemed to blur together in a way he'd never seen before. He grabbed a magnifying glass from his workbench. The more he looked, the more convinced he became that this coin had not been struck normally. Curious, Howard brought the coin to a local coin dealer who had been in the business since the 1970s. The dealer, skeptical at first, inspected it under a loupe. His demeanor shifted quickly. The doubling was undeniable, and not the kind that came from post-mint damage or die fatigue. This looked like a genuine double die, a type of error that, in modern minting, had become exceedingly rare. Word began to spread. Howard's coin was submitted to a professional grading service, which returned it with a label that made collectors perk up. 1985 P. Jefferson nickel, double die obverse and reverse, MS66. Not long after, another coin emerged from Ohio with a slightly different, but no less intriguing, error. This time, the doubling was most visible in the motto, "In God We Trust," with Jefferson's I appearing distorted, almost duplicated. On the reverse, Monticello again bore the signs of an error, this time with the base and steps looking layered, as though the architecture had been rendered in 3 dimensions by mistake. It was subtle but unmistakable. Unlike other more common mint errors, like off-center strikes or die chips, these double die examples were concentrated, specific, and unusually detailed. Experts traced them to a short-lived die pairing at the Philadelphia Mint that may have slipped through during a shift transition, likely caused by die misalignment during installation. The result: a brief run of nickels struck with dies that had engraved images slightly misaligned between their stages, creating an effect of visual echoing on both sides of the coin. These weren't mass-produced errors. They were ghosts, barely present in circulation, easily dismissed by the casual observer, and yet brimming with value for those who recognized their significance. What made matters even more compelling was a discovery made in early 2021 by a numismatist at a Pennsylvania auction house. He came into possession of a 1985 nickel with a curious rim. The edge was slightly uneven, thicker on one side, and missing part of the design at the opposite end. Under high magnification, it was revealed that the coin had been struck slightly off-center, but not enough to deform the whole design. The doubling was still present, but this new coin added an additional layer of anomaly. A die clash was visible underneath the date. This clash showed faint lines from the reverse design appearing on the obverse, suggesting that at some point during production, the dies struck each other without a planchet between them. That kind of error, stacked atop doubling and misalignment, was the kind of trifecta that coin hunters dream of. The coin was quickly snapped up by a private collector for an undisclosed five-figure amount. As more coins surfaced, though only a handful over the years, a pattern developed. The errors were consistent with a short time frame of production, probably no more than a few hours or shifts. Most of the examples bore the P mint mark, all from the Philadelphia facility, and none had been found in uncirculated rolls or mint sets. That meant every specimen came from circulation, found by chance, pulled from drawers, and in a few cases, collected by people who had no idea what they had until much later. The twist in the story came when a third-tier grading company mistakenly labeled one of these nickels as a damaged coin. That sparked debate in the numismatic community as experienced collectors pushed back. High-resolution scans and overlays compared the error coins against standard 1985 nickels, clearly showing doubling patterns consistent with true die doubling, not post-mint distortion. Eventually, the mistake was corrected, but it underscored just how delicate the line could be between scrap and treasure, how easily a rare gem could be overlooked in a sea of metallic sameness. What propelled the coin further into numismatic mythology was an auction in early 2023, where a nearly flawless MS-67 example, featuring clear doubling on Jefferson's nose, jawline, and the lettering on both sides, sold for a staggering $97,000. The coin had been sitting in a private collection in Vermont, its owner unaware of its potential until he brought it in for appraisal. The bidding war that followed was fierce, with collectors recognizing the historical importance of such a well-preserved error in an era when quality control should have prevented it altogether. Today, these 1985 Jefferson nickel errors are viewed not just as mistakes, but as moments in time. They're the result of human oversight in a world increasingly run by machines. A subtle slip in die preparation, a missed alignment, and suddenly, without any fanfare, a new rarity is born. Each one that surfaces sparks renewed interest and speculation. How many are still out there, sitting in coin jars, wedged in couch cushions, passed unknowingly from hand to hand in corner stores? In the grand story of American coins, the 1985 5-cent piece now holds a chapter of its own. Not for a dramatic redesign or precious metal content, but because it reminds collectors that sometimes the most valuable things are hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to look just a little closer. Depending on clarity, grade, and the type of doubling present, these rare 1985 Jefferson nickel errors have sold for amounts ranging between $45,000 and $110,000. A quiet coin from a quiet year, transformed by a whisper of imperfection into a treasure of extraordinary value. The 1999 Jefferson nickel came into the world without ceremony. It was one of the final years before the U.S. Mint would introduce sweeping design changes to coinage, and the familiar profile of Thomas Jefferson remained untouched since its introduction decades earlier. Millions were produced, routinely stacked and circulated across the country without a second thought. And yet, deep within that year's production, a rare anomaly formed, hidden in plain sight, a mistake that, over time, would evolve into one of the most mysterious and coveted 5-cent coins from the late 20th century. The Philadelphia and Denver mints handled the bulk of the Jefferson nickel minting for that year. Minting presses roared steadily, striking planchets with dies that had already produced billions of similar coins over the years. But in a brief window at the Philadelphia facility, a misalignment occurred. It was not the kind of catastrophic error that shredded metal or produced visibly deformed coins. It was subtle, precise enough to elude casual observation, yet distinct enough to spark waves in the collecting community once discovered. The first specimen surfaced not in a coin shop, but in a retirement home in New Mexico. Arthur, an elderly man with a quiet obsession for organizing pocket change, had spent his post-retirement years inspecting nickels with a magnifying glass. On a rainy March afternoon, he was flipping through rolls from his local bank when he paused over a 1999 nickel. The coin didn't look spectacular. It bore the expected image of Jefferson, facing left, with the word Liberty trailing just behind him in a flowing script. But the word appeared different, Like it had been echoed by a second shadow, Arthur tilted the coin under the lamp. He noticed that Jefferson's eye looked unusually deep, as though it had been punched twice. Below, the date, 1999, showed signs of faint doubling. On the reverse, the iconic image of Monticello displayed unusual warping around its columns. Still unsure, Arthur mailed the coin to a numismatic friend in Illinois who had an eye for errors. The response came back almost immediately. Arthur hadn't just found an error. He had stumbled upon a double die, a rare and particularly dramatic one, affecting both sides of the coin. Soon after, news spread among error specialists. Arthur's coin was authenticated and graded MS-65 with a clear designation of double die obverse and reverse. It was the first major discovery of its kind for the 1999 5-cent issue, but the mystery only deepened from there. Other collectors began scouring their stashes of 1999 nickels. For months, nothing surfaced. It appeared that Arthur's find might have been a singular event. But then, a teenage collector in Pennsylvania posted a photo online of a nickel that looked strangely off-center, with Jefferson's profile shifted slightly toward the rim and the inscription stretched unnaturally. The reverse looked even stranger. Monticello's dome had doubled sharply, and part of the lettering in 5 cents appeared slightly rotated. At first, it was dismissed as damage. But closer inspection revealed another double die, and this one combined with a slight misalignment of the striking process. Grading revealed a nearly identical die variety to Arthur's, with enough distinction to warrant a separate classification. Suddenly, 1999 nickels were no longer common. They were potential treasure maps, their value hinging on the faintest clues buried within metal. More examples slowly surfaced. One in Michigan, another in Tennessee, and a particularly dramatic example found in California that featured a light die clash behind Jefferson's head, evidence that the obverse and reverse dies had once collided without a planchet between them. That coin also exhibited an unusual raised line along the rim, the result of a minor collar misfeed that added yet another layer to the error's complexity. What puzzled many experts was how such an error could occur in the era of strict quality control. By the late 1990s, the U.S. Mint had implemented advanced inspection systems. Yet the existence of these 1999 double dies and strike anomalies suggested a short-lived mechanical failure that went unnoticed for just long enough to strike a handful of planchets with imperfect dies. Most of those coins would have circulated and worn down before anyone noticed. Only the lucky few who received them early and paid close attention could have caught the difference. A twist in the story came when a collector at a Washington coin show displayed a unique piece that bore clear doubling on the word Monticello, but also showed a faint but unmistakable partial brockage, a ghostly mirror of Jefferson's portrait pressed faintly into the reverse. It was the only known specimen with both a double die and a partial brockage from that year. Experts could hardly believe it. The odds of both errors occurring on the same coin were astronomical, and yet here it was, preserved in a protective sleeve, the result of an accidental yet extraordinary alignment of minting flaws. This discovery reignited collector interest across the country. Coin clubs and online forums were filled with posts of users uploading photos of 1999 nickels, hoping theirs showed similar signs. Most turned up ordinary coins. But every now and then, another anomaly appeared: off-center strikes, rim thickness inconsistencies, faint doubling on the date or motto. Each was a potential piece of the puzzle. The most dramatic values, however, were reserved for those with clear, strong doubling on both sides, free of post-mint damage and well-preserved. Coins like Arthur's original specimen, or the one with the partial brockage, began to trade quietly between collectors for staggering sums. At an auction in late 2022, a pristine MS-66 example featuring crisp doubling on both the obverse and reverse, along with a noticeable misalignment in Jefferson's shoulder, sold for $81,000. The bidding had been intense, driven by a sense of historical urgency, an acknowledgement that these coins represented one of the last great modern nickel errors to be discovered in the 20th century. With fewer than 15 certified examples known across major grading services, they became more than coins. They were stories snapshots of mechanical imperfection from a world increasingly dominated by machine precision. Even today, new examples surface rarely, but each discovery adds to the mystique. Some are found in forgotten drawers, others in dusty coin rolls long neglected. A few lucky finds have even come from old arcade machines and toll booth returns, reminders that value sometimes rests where it's least expected. For collectors, the 1999 Jefferson nickel isn't just about metal or mint marks. It's about the thrill of the unknown, the patience of observation, and the strange satisfaction that comes from uncovering something the rest of the world missed. It's proof that even a 5-cent piece can carry with it a legacy of wonder, error, and extraordinary worth, depending on strike clarity, grade, and the combination of errors present. The rare 1999 US 5-cent coin has commanded auction prices ranging from $40,000 to $90,000. An ordinary coin made remarkable by the smallest misstep in a relentless machine, now treasured by those who know where to look. The year 2003 was an ordinary one for the U.S. Mint, at least on the surface. The Jefferson nickel continued its long-standing role as a staple of everyday commerce, quietly changing hands and pockets, cash registers, and coin jars nationwide. The design had remained steady, featuring Thomas Jefferson's profile on the obverse and his iconic Monticello estate on the reverse. Millions of these nickels were produced across the Philadelphia and Denver mints, their value seeming fixed at a mere 5 cents. Yet, hidden within that unassuming batch, something unusual was brewing, an imperfection born from a momentary lapse in the minting process that would soon capture the attention of collectors everywhere. In the bustling environment of the Philadelphia Mint, where dies were struck with relentless precision, an unexpected error occurred. One of the dies responsible for imprinting Jefferson's image developed a slight misalignment during a critical phase of the striking process. This misalignment was subtle, almost invisible to the casual eye. But to those with patience and a keen sense of detail, the coin whispered its secret, a rare double die error that altered the coin's appearance in ways both fascinating and mysterious. It was not an error that caused a visible doubling of the date or the lettering as seen in some older coins. Instead, the doubling affected Jefferson's profile in a way that made his features look shadowed, as if his face had been struck twice with a whisper's difference in placement. The Monticello on the reverse was equally affected. Its columns appeared slightly stretched, and the dome looked as though it had been pressed once more, but not quite aligned with the original strike. This error lay hidden for years, unnoticed by most. Then came along Claire, a passionate collector who had made it her mission to hunt down unusual coins. While sorting through a bulk purchase of nickels from a local bank in Ohio, she spotted something odd. One coin's edge appeared a little thicker, and under magnification, the subtle doubling on Jefferson's cheekbone and the faint shadowing of the word, Liberty, stood out like a secret message. Claire's heart raced with excitement. She was holding something rare, an error that had eluded detection for nearly 2 decades. Claire reached out to a network of numismatists, who confirmed her find was genuine. The coin was authenticated and graded MS-64 by a leading certification service, receiving a designation that highlighted the double die on both obverse and reverse, a rare occurrence for nickels of that era. Word quickly spread in collector circles, and soon, others began hunting through their collections, rolling coins through magnifiers and scanners in hopes of discovering a similar treasure. The coin's rarity only deepened when further research revealed that this particular error occurred only during a brief window, when a worn die was mistakenly used alongside a fresh one, causing the faint but unmistakable doubling. Because this window was so narrow, only a small number of coins were struck with the flaw, making it a true rarity. As more collectors shared their finds, a pattern emerged. Some coins displayed stronger doubling on Jefferson's jawline, while others had it more pronounced on the reverse, especially around the E pluribus unum inscription. This variability sparked intense debate over which variety was the rarest, driving the value even higher. One surprising discovery came when a collector in Arizona submitted a 2003 nickel that not only featured the double die, but also showed signs of a weak strike, giving Jefferson's face a ghostly, almost blurred quality. This combination was unique, and experts speculated it might have resulted from a misfeed or a slight slip in the collar die that restrained the coin during striking. This particular specimen fetched a significant premium at auction, stirring excitement and fueling speculation about other possible undiscovered variants. The unfolding saga of the 2003 Nichols error transformed what was once a simple 5-cent coin into an emblem of unpredictability and collector intrigue. Initially, the coin had no special status, but as authentication and grading firms began cataloging more examples, its reputation soared. Collectors who once viewed it as a curiosity now saw it as a valuable asset, a piece of numismatic history that encapsulated the human element within the machine-like precision of the mint. The value of these error nickels fluctuated as new specimens came to light. Early sales hovered around a few $1,000s, but with growing recognition, prices surged. Auctions became battlegrounds for serious collectors, with bids climbing rapidly for coins in pristine condition and those exhibiting the most dramatic doubling effects. Dealers began to educate clients about the subtle differences between the varieties, emphasizing the importance of sharpness in strike and clarity in doubling. Today, the 2003 US 5-cent coin error stands as a testament to how the smallest mechanical glitch can forever change the fate of a common coin. Its story is not just one of metal and misprints, but of human curiosity, discovery, and the thrill of finding the unexpected in the mundane. Depending on condition, rarity of the doubling, and overall preservation, these nickels have commanded prices ranging from $30,000 to $75,000. A remarkable transformation from everyday pocket change to a prized collector's gem that continues to fascinate and inspire.